Seltzer Kings
podcasts.
In the military, veterans answer the call to serve. Now it's our turn. At Hire Heroes USA, they're changing lives, helping veterans and military spouses secure meaningful careers, all at no cost.
With over 100,000 success stories and counting nationwide, they're connecting skilled veterans with employers who recognize their true value. Visit hireheroesusa.org to access their services or to support their mission. Real people making bold moves. Unforgettable journeys into life's next chapter. This is the Second Act Podcast.
Every day is a new chance. Mindset on a new path. Anything is possible. Any limit I surpass. Everything is in my grasp. I got tunnel vision with a pickaxe. Life is more fun when you live like there's no strings attached.
John, why don't we kick it off? Welcome everyone back to the Second Act. How you doing, John?
Yeah. Michael, I'm doing good, man. I was just saying before we hit record, I feel like it's been forever since I've been on the show because you've been covering for me. I've missed the last couple episodes due to work-related issues and fourth quarter sales. If anybody out there listening is in sales, I salute you. It's a grind and it's tough. Michael, you were in sales before.
I have been.
Man, I'll tell you, different quarters affect different, industries, but for airplane sales, it's all about the fourth quarter, and that's where we really grind it out and get it all done. So I appreciate your capacity to take over for me in the last couple episodes. And that leads me into just how important I think partnerships are and friendships and team effort, where one person is weak, the other person or team steps in and fills that gap. And I saw that in the military. I see that here in the Second Act. I see it in my job now. Man, it's so important to have those other roles that can step in, and you're not a single point of failure, as we like to call it in the military, where every decision comes down to one person. And if that person's not there or that person is indisposed, then nothing gets done and everybody just stands around looking. But we have the way it's set up with you and I, and the way it's set up, in a successful business, I feel is multiple people are able to make decisions and get the job done however they can, as effectively as they can. And man, I'm thankful for you. 2025, we just stepped into a new year, and I'm thankful for this partnership and our producer on the backside, JB, who crushes it. And man, I'm really excited to see where this year goes. I know we've got a strategy meeting coming up, you and I, and
we do.
Again, importance of partnerships and understanding where the partnership wants to go and what they want to do, and just really thankful. So,
I appreciate the comments, John, and I wouldn't consider you weaker in any way. We bring different strengths to our partnership and what we're doing to help other people. And I can certainly understand the fourth quarter push in sales and focus, the importance of focus, because revenue is oxygen to any organization. So pushing that through Q4, in my industry, the tech industry, was always a big quarter as well. But I'm super excited about our guests for this year, the progress we made over the last year. And it's just become such a fun, it's hard to call it work because it's fun, and just rebuilding our website, getting excited about waking up and like tinkering with coding stuff and messaging and distribution and all the things. Like, it's just fun. So I wish every day was perfect and great and fun, but even when things are breaking, like something broke yesterday, I still had fun trying to fix it.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see what happens in 2025. And I don't want to waste any more time getting to our incredible guest today. I'm honored to introduce you, Ayush. You are a college student, entrepreneur, software developer, and social innovator using technology to tackle global challenges. You I don't even want to compare what I was doing in college to the things that we're about to list here. But you were fascinated by coding since the age of 9. You taught yourself programming through college-level courses, and now you're a junior at Georgia Tech, majoring in computer science, one of my alma maters, so that's awesome.
Very cool.
Some of your notable accomplishments, one in particular, early in life, includes founding Ashwaz, a social initiative that supported thousands of healthcare workers during COVID, raised tens of thousands in funding across multiple countries, and delivered countless personal protective equipment kits to Bangalore's largest COVID hospital. This success earned you the chance to present at the United Nations 1M 1B Activate Impact Summit in New York, as well as being honored with the prestigious Diana Award for Young Humanitarian Leaders, representing the view that young people have the power to change the world. And if that wasn't enough, in addition to this honorary accomplishment, you've designed a software solution called M Nutrition to help feed financially underprivileged children in India, showcasing your commitment to addressing critical social issues through technology. You've also earned the title of Young AI Champion by Meta. That's piqued my curiosity, where you were featured on CNBC, inspiring youth to use open source development tools to bring ideas to life. Driven by passion and purpose, Ayush, you combine technical expertise and social vision to inspire change. So let's explore your incredible journey more. That's just getting started. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for that introduction as well.
That's amazing, Ayush. I tell you what, the most I got out of my college experience was a degree, and they gave it to me so that I could leave. They just wanted me to go do something else, not stick around there anymore. So, man, it's fascinating to hear what all you've done in such a short time span, and I'm honored to have you on the show.
And the honor's all mine to be here.
I think John and I probably represent more the center of the bell curve when it comes to college students. And then we have outliers that are making an impact right out of the gate in their life.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what the future holds for you with such amazing things. But Ayush, let's start from the early days. Born in India, and tell us a little bit about your family and how things got started and where some of these passions came from.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like you mentioned, I was born in India, and I grew up in Bangalore. And I think most people in technology or in that realm of the world would know Bangalore as like the tech capital of India. There's a lot of major firms that have offices or headquarters set up there, and that is kind of like the place to be if you want to get into technology in India. So I was really fortunate to have grown up there and spent most of my childhood there. And my dad is an entrepreneur. He runs his own business, and he works in fintech. My mom used to be a professor actually in dentistry, and then retired to take care of me and my brother. But it was funny because me and my brother, I think we grew up around entrepreneurs, so to say. Of course, my dad was running his own business, but during a brief period of time, my mom opened up like her own craft store. So we would kind of go there, help around with that. We always had family friends who were starting something new or running their own startup. There was always something going on. It was very fun to see that, whether it was someone building a new startup, someone getting funding, someone releasing a new product. So that was kind of like the environment that I ended up growing up into. And I think somewhere that must have influenced me to want to be in it myself. And as for technology, I honestly cannot remember how long I've been fascinated with it. I think my parents were annoyed because I was always the kid that would open up things like remotes, toys, phones, putting them back together. I wasn't
Like
so great
physically,
at. Yeah.
like taking them apart.
Completely
it.
like removing them apart. Anything that I could get my hands on, I would like open it up. So phones, calculators, and yeah, I think I did more damage than I did learning, but I think hopefully it paid off. Hopefully it paid off. But I thought it was really fascinating by understanding how things worked, and I always wanted to like keep building stuff of my own. And I think that's where the whole realm of software really seemed really interesting to me because of how accessible it was. You know, growing up, I would watch all the movies about jobs and Zuckerberg, the social network, and it
Yeah,
always
yeah.
fascinated me how just even simple lines of code could have so much impact. And the fact that it's you just need a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, and you can use that to potentially build something amazing. I think that really seemed very fascinating to me as a kid. So I ended up started getting into coding around grade six. So that must have been around when I was 10 or 11 years old. And it really started with like free YouTube courses because I didn't want to pay any money to learn. So free YouTube courses, Code Academy, anything that I could get my hands on just to understand like what is coding, how does it work, and that kind of just like spiraled into a great learning experience where I would just tinker around, build small websites, apps, and eventually ended up getting more serious about it. And by the time grade eight came around, which I think was 2 years later, I had already completed a certification in Android development. That was kind of the way I decided to go down because I wanted to build something that people could use, and that seemed like the best way forward at the time.
You said 8th grade, right? 8th grade,
Yeah,
you got your Android development certificate?
yeah.
Okay.
And it was
I
really
love
funny
it.
because I remember the course. I was doing an online course, and the first class, everyone had to introduce themselves, and everyone we were going around the call, and everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a second year in college. I'm a third year in college. I'm looking for a
Jeez.
job." And I wasn't sure whether to say I'm an eighth grade, so I just said I'm in high school. And then they asked me which grade in high school, and I said eighth, and it was kind of awkward, but there was just like silence after that
Yeah.
because they weren't sure if I was being serious or not. But we went through that and completed the course. And yeah, by then I had learned kind of how to make Android apps on a much better scale, on a much and with a much better understanding. And from then on, it was the start of learning how to build these projects and actually try building something of my own.
I love it.
You mentioned your dad being an entrepreneur and your mom was a dentist for a little bit and then came came over and began, kind of running the house. But how much did they push you? Or how much did they give you room to get into this by yourself? I can't imagine as an 8-year-old you're hearing the word startup and that's making sense, or you're hearing coding and you think, "Oh, that's I'm destined to do that." But obviously your influence from your parents is affecting the direction in which you're growing. But how
hmm
much room did they give you to explore these options?
To be honest, I think they were happy to give me as much room as I wanted because another thing was, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing computer science and engineering. It's a very safe field as well, like financially speaking and
Yeah.
employment speaking. So I think they were really open with me, like exploring and um, looking out. And I think growing up, it was very clear that I enjoyed like science and maths. I was pretty good at it in school. I used to participate in Olympiads and those kind of things. So I think for them it was pretty. I wouldn't say obvious, but it was a natural progression. So
Sure.
I think they were also pretty open to helping me out. And I remember I wanted to learn iOS development like pretty early in seventh grade, and the only person who had a MacBook in my house was my dad. And so naturally, I ended up going towards Android because I didn't want to keep bugging my dad to use his laptop every time I wanted to code.
Yeah.
But no, they were super understanding, and my parents have always been super supportive. Even for computer science, it's still a relatively safe field. But for example, my younger brother, he wants to be a professional soccer player.
Okay.
And that's a completely different, life, a completely different
Yeah,
trajectory, and
For
almost
sure.
very uncertain as well. But they've been completely supporting him all the way. So they've always been super supportive of whatever we wanted to do growing up. And I think that's really been a key factor and a big motivator as well.
Just to sort of piggyback on John's question and touch on a word that you just mentioned, uncertain or uncertainty, risk taking. How did your parents instill in you that it's okay to take risks? How did they think about taking risks? when it came to experimenting and exploring and trying new things and being willing to accept failure. I mean, you're talking about participating in math olympiads and programming things, which, you're pretty proficient in things, if you're getting to that level. But so how do you marry? So I'm really good at these things and I'm doing well in
Mhm.
these things, but I'm also sort of wired through my experience with my family and my friends and things to take risks and fail.
Absolutely. That's a very good question. I think luckily through my parents' own experiences, they've been in positions where they've taken risks, and some have worked, some have not. So I think they've also kind of understood, in some sense, the value of it. To give you an example, in early 2008, my dad left his company, and the first thing he did was started a restaurant.
Mm.
Um, and which is from someone who came from an IT background that was very like,
I love that.
foreign to him.
Yeah.
But he started a restaurant because he loved food. He's very passionate about food, and he found the perfect opportunity and said, you know what, I'm just gonna take the plunge, so to say. Um, a similar thing with my mother, where her background was in healthcare and dentistry, and she said, you know what, I want to try something new. I want to try something fun, and she opened up a arts and crafts store. So I think they had in themselves a natural tendency to take risks. So I don't think they were necessarily as concerned if the children were also to follow in their footsteps. But yeah, that is definitely something that I've seen. Other for friends, their parents maybe maybe less or more pro. Like they don't maybe want their kids to take as many risks. Some people want them to take the safe route, take the easy card. But I'm glad that, and I've seen parents the other end. They want to throw their kids into the deep end and see what happens if they can swim. So I'm glad that my parents had this like balance, and I think that was pretty helpful, yeah.
I definitely see elements from both your mom and your dad in some of the things that you've been able to accomplish at such a young age with support during COVID and what you did there and helping malnourished people in rural areas, blending technology and healthcare, and then taking risks to see if what I build can actually work and help those all these people in need. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in some sense, there's definitely been influences that way. Healthcare. My mom obviously knows a lot of people, or not necessarily knows, but she's seen that side of the industry scenes. So naturally, I ended up kind of understanding the value of it, and then of course seeing the world of startups and more towards technology with my dad. So I think a lot of those early projects ended up being a great combination of those two.
Now, Ayush, walk me through this timeline. Are you like Ashwash? Was that done before you went to Georgia Tech? I'm thinking about COVID and the timeline of you being a junior now. It seems like you've been doing some pretty big things before you even get to college.
Yeah, so that happened before college. I believe Ashwa started around March of 2020. So by this time, the COVID-19 wave had just kicked into India, and schools were closing down, offices were going remote, and everything was really new and very uncertain. So we really didn't it was still in that phase where I think nobody had any idea about what was going on. What was COVID-19? How would you get affected by it? How does it spread? And I remember I had an uncle at the time who was actually a pulmonologist. So he was part of the front line. They had to still continue working at the time while everyone else stayed home. And so we would talk to him often to kind of understand better about the situation. What is COVID-19? How does it affect us? What do we do if something happens to us? And it was through those conversations that I actually started understanding more about how the pandemic is affecting them specifically. And I think that really served as the breeding grounds for the idea and kind of where it took off from.
It's pretty interesting to see you go from a family that are, and I say risk takers, but that has a negative connotation to it. It's who are open to doing things differently and to expanding their horizon or broadening the box in which they operate by doing different things. So now here you are on the verge of a pandemic, something the world has not seen in our lifetime, and you're willing to adapt because I think what you've seen your mom and dad adapt to and adapt with, and how they've been able to step out of their comfort zone and do things that they weren't necessarily probably prepared for all the way, but they did it anyway, like the restaurant. And so it's interesting to see you faced with this pandemic and then blossoming into a problem solver. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, in fact, it's probably something I haven't really paid attention to until you brought it up. But that is a good point. I think growing up in that environment changes your natural response to any situation. So I think in a situation where I was uncertain or filled with uncertainty, I was more excited to kind of explore that uncertainty and see what I could make out of it. So I think that, I think I completely agree with you on that.
Very
Is
cool.
there a moment, Ayush, we had a guest on, she recalled a conversation with her parent, I think it might have been her dad more specifically, who in that conversation instilled this strong sense of confidence that you can overcome particular obstacles in your journey. And that was probably reinforced over a number of times, but during the conversation, that particular conversation with her dad was something special. I don't know up to this point if you had a moment or a couple of moments like that that sort of unleashed the potential that you've capitalized on today, but I'd love to hear it.
I don't know if there's anything on those lines that really comes to mind, but there's definitely one thing that may or may not be related. I'm not
Hmm.
too sure, but I'll still talk about it anyways. I grew up in this family and with these values in mind. Growing up, I was quite the introvert and quite the shy child. And I think for some reason, I still was in like a smaller box. And this was probably like, up until say when I was 10 or 11 and I really got into coding. And it's not like coding, births extroverts or makes the most talkative of people. But I think I grew up like really shy and kind of closed off in my box. And that would often lead to situations where opportunities would present themselves, but I wouldn't really jump onto them or make the most of them. And that was something that my parents used to tell me that, that was something that I could possibly reevaluate about myself or see whether that's something I want to change. So that was something that I definitely took as constructive criticism and started working upon and trying to kind of push myself out of the box, take more risks. So this wasn't really something that I was born with. It was something that I had to kind of work on to take active steps. And, for example, to overcome shyness, it would be something as simple as starting a random conversation with a stranger every day. That was kind of like one of the things I had on my list where
Coming
I
on a
had to talk.
podcast.
Yeah, going on a podcast. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was like those simple things that kind of showed me how to get out of the box. And with that came those other attributes like being open to taking risks, being open to doing things that aren't expected of you, but are something that you would be interested in doing. So I would say that ended up, influencing me because I do, when I think back, if, sixth grade me was in a position where I had to work with doctors and talk to people, I would have just been, straight no, no. I would have never done any of it. But I think luckily, there was steps taken, and that was through like feedback and criticism from my parents that, and it wasn't, it was constructive. It wasn't, anything that I took to heart, but it really made a difference. And I think Osh was fundamentally, you know, part of that was the reason why I was able to actually take on that project.
That's reassuring because I have an 8-year-old,
As do I.
and I often tell him when he's feeling apprehensive about doing something or going up to someone and asking a question or saying something that you don't know the outcome of
Right.
what's going to happen. So just go try.
Right.
Most likely, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no, or, I can't, do whatever if you're trying to communicate with someone. And then if you go and try to do something, you're either going to succeed at it or you're going to learn something from the process of doing it.
Yep.
And it's a
100%.
process teaching him that. But again, it's reassuring to hear that some of the sort of foundational elements that I'm sharing with my son are things that worked with you, and John, maybe you're doing the same with your kids.
Well, it's great advice at 8 and 48.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's people, and I'll be self reflective and say that is something that I question too, is what if I go up and talk to this person and they say, get out of my face. They don't want what I'm selling, or they're not interested. If that's the worst the day has for me, it's a pretty good day. Right.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm impressed, Ayush, that you were so self-aware at 8, 9, 10 to have those conversations within yourself. And I do try to tell my boys that as well. Hey, you know, there's going to be times where you just strike out, but it's not a reflection of you. It's that take what we put out there and figure out how to make that no a yes, or figure out how to have a conversation with that person, or figure out how we can help. It's the next time is just the next chance. So
100%. And at the end of the day, it's just about, at least to me, the way I always try to look at it is, what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen. And if the
right.
best
Absolutely.
is a lot better than the worst, then you should probably go talk to them, or you should probably, take that step.
Yep.
And we never know. We never know the outcome of something, no matter
Yeah.
how much we try to predict it. We just
Mhm.
don't know. So why not try?
Exactly.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Ayush, I would love to learn, a little bit about, and Michael read it in your bio, you presenting at the UN, and explain to me or us what the 1M, 1B Activate Impact Summit is, and then maybe go on to explain what the Diana Award is, just for our audience.
Definitely. So, 1M1B was an organization that I got to work with during the course of this project, and they were kind enough to start sharing these opportunities, like the United Nations opportunity, and there was also, in fact, another one where I actually, thanks to them, I got to present at the International Youth Conference as an ambassador from India, and it was like a great community as well. So I had the opportunity of meeting others, teenagers from around India who were working on different projects, whether it was providing clean water, providing sanitation services, and a host of other different social impact projects. So that was a really great experience, and it was in collaboration with them that I got selected to present at the United Nations, and that also was an amazing opportunity, being able to not only bring a stage to the work that was happening, but also bring a spotlight onto the problem. Because, even though, well, something that I fundamentally believed in during the project was, even though COVID really showcased how bad working conditions were for doctors and the healthcare community, these problems still existed outside of the pandemic. It's only that the pandemic worsened them. So even after the pandemic subsides and things go back to normalcy, one of the most important things to bear in mind is that we should still look at the problems they face, given the fact that they literally see people injured and suffering and maybe in many cases dying every day. A lot of doctors in India still face a severe lack of protective equipment. They still face long working hours, insufficient wages, and a host of other problems. And so that platform was really wonderful for me to showcase those problems and say, COVID may be going away, but these problems still aren't, and we need to still continue doing things about this. So it was a really great opportunity to meet other students, meet other teenagers, and meet people from the United Nations and share these problems and get their advice too on it, and their advice, their support. So yeah, very very cool experience.
And tell me what you received the Diana Award. What was that for?
Mhm. So yeah, that was for Ostros itself, and for the Diana Award is a humanitarian award. It's hosted by, I don't remember the exact, the Diana Foundation. That was their name, and it's in memory of Princess Diana, and because she believed a lot in community service and
Sure.
supporting those who need help and need aid, and that foundation was built in terms of her, and so every year they award teenagers from around the world with the Diana Award for showcasing social work, and I was fortunate enough to have been nominated and received the award for it, so. That was a great honor to have.
Wow. Very
I
cool.
mean, with these sort of amazing accomplishments at such a young age, I mean, you're not even done with your undergrad program at Georgia Tech yet. Where do you want it to lead? I feel like you're in a position to have choice here in
Mhm.
terms of where and a lot of people do, but your opportunities, I imagine, are going to be pretty abundant once you are done with school and what you've been able to accomplish. Where do you want to go? Like, what is, what do you want your first? I don't know what act you're on at this point, because you've done so many things and you're not even done with college, but the
Yeah.
next thing, the next
Mhm.
exciting thing for you that fires you up and gives you passion that you could see at least starting a career in,
Mhm.
what is that?
I think for me, naturally, it's always been building something of my own. You know, even during college. So I took college as kind of this opportunity to take time away from building and focus more on learning. Learning new skills, not just technical skills and the stuff you need to be good at computer science, but also skills that would, soft skills that would be beneficial later on. Things like, talking to people, leadership, teamwork. Those are things that I've been also continuously trying to work on. And so I really wanted to take college as that opportunity to kind of throw myself into the deep end and learn as much as possible. And I think, fortunately, Georgia Tech has been the right place for that. I've been learning a lot, not just on the technical end, which Georgia Tech is well known for, but also, through extracurriculars and through things outside of the class, I've been able to work on those other soft skills, which are just as important. And so definitely, and one of the great things was I got to do, internships and things like that over the summer, work at small startups, work at big tech. I've definitely realized big corporations aren't really where I guess I see myself having gone through that experience.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like the whole process of building things of my own, of working with a smaller team where I could do things that were unexpected, but and learn in that process. So I think definitely going forward, entrepreneurship is the long term play. It's where I naturally see myself going. And I've always been passionate about building. So I always build projects on the side, something or the other. It could be, earlier this year, I was building a tool so I could automate resume building. So that whenever you apply
Okay.
to a job position, it'll automatically build a resume that's tailored for that job and
Oh,
applies
wow.
with that. Then I got to work with a great team of a couple of friends, and we built a mobile and AI powered iPad app, so that you can actually detect early signs of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's just using
Oh,
handwriting
interesting.
analysis.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been like really fun, kind of dabbling in all these various different projects, and it's definitely that's something I want to continue taking forward and looking beyond. So one of the things I've been doing is working on a lot of different projects and just seeing what works, what doesn't. And I think that's definitely the long way forward. I want to build stuff and most importantly, build stuff that can have a positive impact on people and solve meaningful problems. And I still don't know what those problems could be, but I'm kind of open to that uncertainty. It could be something I'm working on today, something I come up with tomorrow, but I feel like I've learned to be comfortable with that unknown and make the most of it.
That's part of the fun of it, right? Like,
Yep.
not necessarily knowing
Absolutely.
which problem you're going to solve. And I've learned later in my life that you finding the right culture, the right people is really, really important.
Yeah.
Because if you're with smart, humble people that work hard and want to get the job done, there's a lot of ideas and problems to solve that I can get behind
Mm,
to help solve. And I'm with you. I tend to gravitate more towards the smaller companies because you can see the work and then the impact and the results from all of that happening. And John, you could probably relate from a sales perspective. You're directly impacting revenue in your role, and seeing how all of the effort that you're putting in is impacting the top line of your organization. I mean, those are
Yep.
the things, as tangible things that, I don't know, there's sort of like makes you feel all good inside, I guess.
I just want to say that I'm inspired by the fact that you're a junior and you have such a inspirational outlook on life and an excitement about you. And it's refreshing to see that in our youth who are looking forward to solving problems, not to facing problems, right? I hear a lot, oh, when I get out of school, I got to deal with XYZ, or I'm walking into this scenario or this life that I didn't create. And now I've got to deal with somebody else's problems. But you're kind of turning that idea on its ear and saying, I'm getting ready to get out of school and I get to solve all these problems. And I've got these tools at my fingertips. And where there aren't tools, I'm going to build what I need to be successful. And it's refreshing, like I said earlier, to see that in you. And so thanks for presenting that. That's awesome.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
I mean, Michael, I don't know, you tell me, but it doesn't seem like that's a normal mentality for tech individuals. But
I think today, not just youth, but adults are overwhelmed with negative information all the time. So,
sure.
on any given day, a large portion of the population thinks the sky is falling and everything's bad. But if you sort of zoom out and take a bigger picture of what's happening and look at that over time, you can actually appreciate the progress that has been made. And we want to continue making that progress. And I think when we have guests on our show or people in the world like Ayush who are capitalizing on that and looking at the opportunities, to your point, John, and not looking at all the things that can go bad, but all the things that can potentially go good if I put some effort into it. That's the message that we want to get out there, and I love that. So I
Yeah.
mean, it should be a reminder to people that there's no shortage of things that can be improved on a personal level or on some grand scale. Just pick the problem you want to try to help to solve and go after it. Find some good people and go after it. And yeah, I love your story, Ayush. It's very inspiring.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I'm itching to hear about this relationship with Meta
Yeah,
and you
tell me
being
more.
named young AI champion. I mean, AI is such a vast world and new, and everything's evolving on a daily basis. And here you are in the thick of it, being recognized by them. Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was a great opportunity where I got to talk on behalf of Meta India, and I got to talk about my experience using not only Meta's tools but tools to create positive impact, and tools that were not just restricted to AI, things that extended even beyond that, things like tools that can be used to build websites and apps, things that can be used to build AR VR applications, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of share everything I've been able to do so far, and also more in a more technical light, where I get to talk about the tools I've been using, the languages I've learned, and how that knowledge has converted into application. So that was a really great experience, and I believe this was also at a stage where Meta was really starting to push more efforts into its existence in India, both from their applications perspectives, but and also from a developer perspective in terms of getting more developers in India to use their tools. So it was really great to be a part of that movement and be able to push that forward as well, and it help grow that culture of developing and building your own tools in India. So that was a really cool experience.
Oh,
I told you John would want to dig into the techie stuff. It's just the way he always takes us down that
it's
road.
it's because
And
I'm the lowest denominator here.
no, no, but I'm sure you're sort of having fun in the AI playground that exists today, and there's just so many amazing things that engineers can do, but also non-engineer folks can do today with the different major AI platforms, but also some of the agents that are being created. And I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I was able to build something, and that would never have been possible a
Hmm.
decade or more ago, unless I had some like really deep domain expertise with engineering stuff. So it's interesting to see how the landscape is shifting around, and how creative problem solving and thinking about structures and big picture, and it's almost, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it. Like, your skills are not going to go away; they're just being sort of leveraged in different ways in this new environment. It's, more specific to the tech world, but it's fun. It's like a lot of fun. I don't know if you want to add anything to that as the AI champion, young AI champion, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I fully second that. And I know for a fact that I use a lot of these AI tools nowadays. I know a lot of friends who do. And I think I remember coming across a quote on Twitter that I think really explained it well. It was that a lot of people fear that AI, or a lot of people feared that AI would replace them. But AI wouldn't replace them. People using AI would replace them.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it is, or at least today also, and most likely in the future as well, it's going to continue being an enabler. It's going to get an engineer to perform twice as good as what they could do. So it is important to now leverage it as a tool and not be afraid of it by any means. Because I do also know people who they don't use GPT at all. They don't use ChatGPT. They don't use any of these tools because they're like,
Yeah,
I don't want to be dependent on it. But on the other hand, the people who know how to use those tools will end up being better engineers than the people who don't. And the
right.
same is true for all kinds of industries. So it's about just understanding how you can use those tools to actually make your own skills better and to amplify your own output. And I think that is going to be the way going forward. And I think that could be maybe, a takeaway for people who are scared about AI or are still yet to fully understand how it works or how they could use it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great word. Amplify what you're doing. It'll accelerate what you're able to deliver
Hmm.
on any given day, week, or month. And I know firsthand that I ran into a problem. It would be nice to have an engineer working with me to solve that problem as a non-engineer. And I'm still stuck with that particular problem. So we still need the people.
Yeah,
The
100%.
AI, regardless of what's programmed, it doesn't have a personality, and it can't help when you're stuck like that. It's good to have people. But thank you for sharing your perspective, Ayush.
Ayush, how do you see yourself going from your junior to senior year at Georgia Tech and then moving out into the real, I say the real world, but life
Hmm.
after school? I'm sure that you've got some planning factors in there and some aspirations. What's kind of leading that right now?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, first thing, I think this year definitely hit that college is going to get over. So I really wanted to now make the most of that experience. And it's not just about like the technical side. It's also, spending time with friends, doing things outside of the classroom, traveling. Also, the US is a completely new country for me, so I love trying to travel, visit new places. But I think definitely there's a sense of almost, oh shucks, it's getting over, and that like timer that's running out now. So I think I've definitely been putting a lot of thought into what I want to do these last couple of semesters. But definitely, like I said earlier, I've always been passionate about building stuff. So
Yep.
one thing I've been trying to do is work on, projects where I can actually take forward and actually maybe turn into a company or an initiative, or even just maybe a problem that I could maybe solve at a company that has the same values and, shares the same passion that I do. So I think that's really been kind of the main goal for me right now. So in terms of that, I've been really doing a lot of not just working, but also networking, getting to know people in the industry, getting to know people at college who share the same passions and vision that I do, and creating those opportunities for myself. Of course, like every other computer science student, I do also, still apply to jobs, still apply for internships, still, complain about how bad the computer science market is. But at the end of the day, I want to also try creating those opportunities for myself. And so that's really what I've been focusing on. And that's kind of the goal I have for the next, till I graduate, is how can I build something that I can continue beyond college and hopefully make it my full time profession and make it something that I'll love doing beyond and forever. So let's see. It's
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
vague answer, but yeah, kind of seeing where the road takes me.
I think you're doing the right things, Ayush. And I've at times in my life, in my career, underappreciated the power of networking, building relationships, establishing connection with folks. And the best of that happens in person, sort of one on one, where you can sit down, share a cup of coffee, share a meal, share a conversation, share stuff about life, and move away from like a sort of transactional arrangement that exists also in the networking world.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I love this show so much is John and I, not only do we continue to build our connection with each other and Jeremy behind the scenes, but with our guests for an hour, learning about their story and all the amazing things that they're doing, the ups and downs of life. We talk a little bit about some of the stuff, the professional stuff, but just getting to know that person. I think that sometimes gets a little lost in the world. And the more we do that and understand each other, the better off society is going to be.
I want to segue on that learning piece, Michael, and ask Ayush. You're now a year away from graduating. You've been in some cutting edge, humanitarian work, and now AI, things that are rapidly evolving, especially in today's world. But how much are you going back to your parents who were entrepreneurs, who were stepping out on their own? And how much are you able to take away from them now? Do you think it's been diminished a little bit and you're stepping into your own world, or are they still able to see some of that, intrigue and belief in the future?
That is a great question. I will say this: I still talk to my parents every day, even when I'm in college. So I do kind of always try to stay in touch with them. And it's funny because even after so many years, and especially now being in college and getting to spend so little time with them, I still get to learn just as much about them as I used to do before. They'll come up with the most insane story about how they did some crazy thing back in their childhood, or when they were working or when they were traveling. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily been diminished. I would say that I get to learn new and different things about them. Of course, continue to learn about the rest of the world as well. But I do try to kind of put an effort to maintain that relationship and maintain that foundation, because I do believe that, it's always good to have a foundation you can rely on,
Yeah.
especially if times are tough. And I wouldn't want, I wouldn't change that for the world. So
Yeah.
I should try to keep that as it is.
I asked that question because it was a personal one for me as I was moving out of secondary education or university into, you know, something new for me. And I thought, oh, my dad, mom, they've got nothing to offer. I'm moving off on my own. But what I seem to always find is you go back to those, that sage advice of our elders and the older people around us that have a generation or two on us. They might not be up to date on the newest technology or the newest way that we all get along, but man, some of their wisdom, a lot of their wisdom, it never changes, right? And it's rooted in how to treat people well, how to live life to the fullest, how to do things with integrity and do things that bring joy to not only you but to those around you. And so I see that maybe in what your parents have to offer because they may not be up to date on the newest AI growth or trajectory, but I'm sure they're imparting on you how to continue to take those risks in the day to day and how to continue to impact your community as you grow and advance in your knowledge. So thanks for imparting that.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that, and it's like you said. I think the best part about the knowledge that they share is that it can often be the knowledge that you needed to hear at that given moment that
Yeah.
maybe didn't remember or it didn't come to mind. I think that is just it's always enlightening. Yeah, I fully agree.
The universe intervenes at exactly the right time, somehow, all the time. Just amazing. As we wrap up things here with this incredible story today, what parting advice do you want to leave our guests with? Practical parting advice, or steps that they can take as they think about their journeys. It could be students like yourself, or you know, John and my generation, who could take something important away from what you've learned.
Definitely. I think the one piece of advice I'd love to share, and something that, at times even I struggle with, and I try to always kind of remind myself is, especially and it's not just something that is for builders and entrepreneurs, but people who have like any sort of passion, whether it's art, music, crafts, anything at all. One thing that I've seen always benefit or help me is, putting whatever I'm working out there to the world and sharing it with the world and showing them what I've been, doing. In the world of entrepreneurship, it's called shipping. You're shipping a new feature, you're shipping a product. But for me, growing up, one of the biggest obstacles I used to always have was trying to create the perfect thing, trying to create the perfect feature, trying to create the perfect app. And I remember a mentor once kind of sat me down and explained to me that, perfection is a myth. You're never really going to achieve it, but it doesn't hurt to kind of keep sharing whatever you're doing with the world regardless. And once I started to do that, I learned that, A, it made me more accountable and whatever I was doing, and B, it made me motivated to hear people's response and to, see their excitement, enthusiasm for that. So one thing I definitely, and it's something that we've been trying to establish at Georgia Tech, as well as like a culture of shipping. Whether you're making music, whether you are a videographer, whether you want to create content, the first step to achieving that, passion or fulfilling it is to share with the world. It doesn't matter if they love it, it doesn't matter if they hate it, but it's the first step in getting there, and just getting the first step is an accomplishment in of itself. So I think, yeah, that would be my, you know, 2 cents.
It's great advice. Very great advice. Ayush, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure meeting you towards the end of last year, and I'm glad we could find a time for us to connect on the show, for you to share a window into your life and the things that you've been able to accomplish and what you're excited about going forward. For anybody who wants to get in touch with you after hearing your story, what's the best way for them to do that?
I mean, I think the best way would probably be just, LinkedIn or Instagram.
Okay.
You can just search up my name up there. Hopefully hopefully you'll find it. But yeah, those are honestly the best places to reach out: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, any of those.
Okay. Awesome. I can't thank you enough for staying up so late in India and holding the line on this conversation for a good solid hour. I know it's late for you, and we may have lost John at the tail end here, but I thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing your continued success.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me once again. I really appreciate you having me on the show and getting to be a part of this.
All right. Until next time, we will talk to our audience again in a week or so. See ya.
The Second Act with Michael and John stars Michael Newborn and John Ballenger. The podcast is produced by Seltzer Kings. For more information on the show, check out michaelandjohn.com, or if you'd like to get involved in the conversation, give the guys a shout on their socials at The Second Act Movement on most platforms. Thanks for listening.
Seltzer Kings
podcasts.